My name is Neil MacLeod Jordan. I live on the island of Iona, and this is my MachairWind. Growing up in Iona is it's an amazing place because it is wild and it's kind of unspoilt. 338 meters. Certainly in my head, I had no idea how big that was. I decided that the only way, really, for me to fully appreciate the size of them was for me to try and make one myself. The size of the largest proposed turbines are just under 340 metres tall. In all the literature and releases there's been, we've seen lots of pictures of the proposed development, but I just couldn't really fully comprehend and get my head around how big that actually is. How tall is 340 meters? How high is that? And how big these turbines potentially would be. And there's been talk that it's higher than the Eiffel Tower. I've never been to Paris, so I can't get my head around that. I started looking for a potential place on Iona that I could perhaps create a scale model of one of these turbines in 2D, so just on the ground. Iona's not a very big island, it's only 3 miles long, 1.5 wide, and the only place that I could find that would have been even close to being big enough was over on the Machair of Iona. I'd done a little drawing of it and I started to map it out. I used some kind of homemade measuring devices, such as a long bit of rope that I measured exactly 50 metres, a homemade big set square, and I also bought a trundle wheel which I used to measure out some of the distances, and a compass as well. I then used a line marking machine, which is what we used to use here for the football pitch in Iona, to do the white lines. It was just a calcium carbonate powder. It doesn't last very long at all. In fact, the night after I'd done it, it rained quite heavily, and then the next day the lines had almost completely disappeared. It's not had any lasting effect on the Machair itself. It took me between 5 and 6 hours to measure it all out. It took about an hour to mark it out with the line marking after that. I couldn't quite believe that even at 120 metres up, which was the maximum height the drone was allowed to go, it still couldn't fit the full size of it in, although it didn't actually end up fitting in completely in the end. The 120 degree blade goes over into an adjacent field, and I didn't want to fully mark out that in that field because there was sheep and stuff there. So I just put a marker at the end of where the blade would have been. So I missed out about 25 metres of length in that blade. The other blade went down and actually went onto the beach. So I ran out of grass, had to go down onto the sand, and you'll see I kind of did it with some stones, some pebbles, to mark where the end of the blade got to. The top blade, the one that goes straight up, I was able to do the full length of that. Getting that idea of how big one of these things actually are, and there's going to be potentially there'd be over 90 of that size of turbine out there, and I'm at the moment I'm actually fishing quite close to that area where the turbines would be sited, south of Iona. So the kind of thought of that size standing vertically up in the water down there is quite an incredible thought, and I say incredible not in a good way. It'd just be absolutely massive. I kind of when the MachairWind proposal first came on the scene, I was kind of quite open to it, I think, and I don't actually mind wind turbines visually too much if they're in the right place, but the sheer size of this development, where it's going to be, And the fact that it looks like we're not really going to get much benefit from it, either monetary or economic, or any other kind of benefit from it, that just kind of confirmed to me, once I'd measured out the size of it and realized how big they are, that just kind of confirmed to me that I don't think it's a great plan. I love a project like that, and it worked for the most part. There's a little bit of a bend in the tower at the bottom, a bit of a curve where I got it wrong. But other than that, the measurements actually work quite well. I think it's reasonably accurate. So yes, I'm absolutely glad I did it.